Hey everybody, let's jump into our video on Boolean operators. So, Boolean operators. This may sound like an unfamiliar term to you, but if you watch the previous videos, you kind of know what this is. You know what an operator is, and you know what a Boolean is. Previously, we've talked about operators and operands, and in our very first videos on variables, we talked about the Boolean type and Boolean variables. So, just to review, an operator is, in this example, is the plus sign here. It's a symbol that takes into some number of operands and produces a value, right? So in this example, the equal sign here is an arithmetic operator, and it produces an arithmetic result. So we get a 4 here. It takes in these two numbers, and it produces a number. A Boolean operator is something like the equivalence operator here. So this is a Boolean operator, and it takes in two values in the same way that the plus sign takes in two values. Except the Boolean operator, instead of producing an arithmetic value, it produces a Boolean value of true. So we have here 5, and then the equivalence operator, and then 5. And what this equivalence operator does is it says, is the value on my right side equal to the value on my left side? If that's true, the equivalence operator produces true, in the same way that the plus sign produces the value of 4 here. It's a very similar structure. So let's see this in code form. So we're going to use our old friend, the string variable name, and we'll assign it to Pete as we always do. And in our console write line here, let's remove hello world, and we'll put in name, and we'll use the equivalence operator. Now, let's say that we want to generate a true value. If we want to generate a true value, we need to make sure that the value we put in on the other side of the equivalence operator equals the value of name. So I will put in Pete. So this value is equal to name because the value of name is Pete. So this equivalence operator will produce a true value, and it'll pass, because that's the, so this is, just to recap, this is an expression, and as we know, expressions produce a single value, and that's based on this equivalence operator comparing these two operands. Since they're the same, the equivalence operator will produce the value of true, and it'll pass it to write line, the console write line here, and that will print it out to the terminal. So let's kill this, and let's run it. And we'll see what we get. True, perfect. So now, nice thing about the comparison operators, you can use it with a bunch of different types. Some Boolean operators you can only use with Booleans, but the comparison operator you can use with a bunch of different types. So let's create a variable age, which we've also seen before, so this is nothing new. And then we can create a bool is hungry, and we'll set this to true. So I also want to copy my console write line here, and we will remove our expression of name equals Pete, and we'll put our age equals, we'll give it a mismatched age, so we'll say 50. So this will now produce a false result because the value of age is not equal to 50. Let's remove this expression here, and we will do is hungry, and we will say is equal to false. So I'm going to hit play, and what do you think will print out from these 3 print statements? Do you think it will be true, false, true, true, false, 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 true, true? What do you think? So we'll run it, and we see true, false, false. Perfect. So now close that process. So our first console write line we know is true because we've talked about it. Our second console write line is obviously false because this age is not equal to 50. Our third console write line here is hungry is actually defined as true up here. And we say, is it equal to false, which is not true. So we return false. Cool. So what I'd like to do is let's move on from our comparison operator, and we can talk about the next operator, which is the logical not operator. And so this logical not operator only works with Booleans. So I'm going to remove our string and our integer values and our string and our integer print statements. And we're just going to talk about Booleans from now on. So we have our logical not. So what does this do? The logical not reverses any Boolean value. So an example of that is if we have not true, then that would equal false. Oops. And if we have not false, that will obviously equal true. So let's try it down here. If we, as we saw, this is hungry equals false, evaluated to false because is hungry is actually true. So in order to make this statement evaluate as true, we can put a not in front of is hungry. So as we see here, with the not operator in front of a true value, right, because is hungry is a variable that represents a true value, we know that this will evaluate to false. And then the comparison operator will pick it up and it will compare this value to this value. And false is equal to false. So this expression will produce a true value. Let's run it to make sure that I'm not lying. Cool, awesome. So I will kill the process, close the terminal. Cool, so this exclamation mark is known as the logical not operator. Also, some people call it just a bang as far as the character. But moving on, let's talk about, just create another space here. Let's talk about the inequality operator. So we've seen the equality operator and we've seen the logical not, which reverses any Boolean value. The inequality operator is similar to the combination of these two. So what it does is the inequality operator produces a true value whenever operands are not equal. Sorry, I can't type today. So let's look down here at the is hungry variable. We're going to switch this back to is hungry is equal to false. So we'll run this with our equivalence operator. And this will produce the value of false because it's saying that is hungry equal to false. And it is not, so that produces the value of false. Now, if we switch this to the inequality operator, the inequality operator is the opposite of the equality operator. So whenever a value is, whenever those two operands are not equal, it produces the result of true. So what do you think it will produce here? What is the value that will print out? It's indeed a true. So I think you might have guessed a true. If you didn't, I'll explain it. This produces a true value because, as we saw up here, the inequality operator evaluates things as not equal. So it is true that is hungry is not equal to the value of false because is hungry is true. True does not equal false. So the inequality operator produces a true value. So those are the, I guess, three Boolean operators that I wanted to talk about in this video. There are two more Boolean operators that I'd like to talk about in their own separate video because they require a little bit more background information. So the next video will be about the logical and the logical or operators in C# and how they work and the theory behind them. Thanks.